Cupertino, the next big thing, I think, comes out WWDC. I mean, obviously, Gurman breaking the story, how they ripped the Band-Aid off on EVs, but now it's all focused on AI. We believe the AI App Store, a separate AI App Store, will be the first step. And I think for developers, that's important because for consumers, they're going to be able to now, over the next 1, 2 years, be buying separate AI driven apps off of an iPhone 16 that has exclusive AI capabilities and LLMs built in. This is the next phase of the growth story within Cupertino.
So, Dan, I mean, I think what we've seen, and you've certainly explained it to us very well over the years, that Apple doesn't feel the need to be first, even in iPhones, for example. They just need to come in with the best and most elegant product. Is that kind of the strategy we're seeing with AI? They're certainly not first. They're certainly not leading edge. But do you fully expect them to have a play here, an angle?
Look, I mean, there's 2.2 billion reasons. I mean, that's the amount of iOS devices. For them, they don't have to be first because they have a golden install base that's unrivaled. And clearly, right now, I mean, sentiment's negative on Apple out there. And I believe what the street's missing is going to be this renaissance of growth, not just AI into the Apple ecosystem, but I think it's going to spawn just more and more upgrade opportunities we go into the next, call it 12, 18
Yep.
months. And that's going to be huge for the sum of the parts. Keene talked about AI in terms of NVIDIA and Microsoft, but now it's the second, third, fourth derivatives of this AI revolution that hit.
So, Dan, you're in Asia as we speak. What's the feeling there about China and Apple, and as an end market for Apple products going forward there? Because as you are well aware, that's probably the big issue for the stock right now.
Yeah, earlier this week in Hong Kong and in and around China, it's like the video thriller, the negative, the horror show, right? In terms of the view right now of China tech, and I think fears about just the economy in China. I think when he looks at Apple, it all comes down to what does demand look like in an economy like that. We believe to that point it has started to stabilize. I believe the street's factoring in a lot more negative than we're seeing here. I think the overall sentiment right now is basically anything but China, and you own U.S. tech, the AI revolution. No one wants to be outside the bar at
Right.
10 p.m. when it goes till
Okay.
4 a.m.
I'm going to talk with Paul Sweeney on this, and then we're going to go to Dan Ives. I want to hear from both of you on this. There's got to be a point where operating officers of any visible company just get angry.
Yeah.
And the CFO turns to the CEO and says, look, we're modeling this out the next 18 months, Paul Sweeney. Let's do it now. Is that where Apple is now, Paul?
I think for China, and Dan, I'll go to Dan on this one, but for China, it's 20% of their sales. It's a huge part of their infrastructure. They have to be there. Tim Cook is over there all the time trying to make it work here. So, Dan, I mean, is there a scenario where China is not, a critical market for Apple?
Look, I mean, it's the hearts and lungs of Apple in terms, not just from growth, but of course from a supply perspective, and that's the reality.
Right.
And I think Apple recognizes you have 200 million iPhones in China. They've gained 300 bips of market share the last 18 months just because of what they're going through. They're not throwing in the white towel.
But Dan, come on, the CFO, nobody's got a profit machine like Apple. Let's start with that basic summary here. There's almost a point where this put on Apple, they go enough and do something financially to right the ship. Is that feasible?
Look, I think for Apple, anything's possible. In other words, like all options are on the table in terms of where they can navigate things. And for Apple right now, they are in just a massive position of strength because of the install base. And I think they recognize Cook, they'll navigate headwinds in China to get to the other side of this because of what's on the horizon. It started with the Vision Pro, then it's AI App Store, and then it's AI with an iPhone
Paul,
16.
get one more in here. Can I state off the WACC screen on the Bloomberg terminal, the return on invested capital for this dog of Cupertino is 55%. I've never said that number, folks, in umpteen years.
Exactly. Hey, Dan, real quickly, what's the prognosis here on Apple's decision to back out of the car business?
I think that was just writing was on the wall. They had to rip the Band-Aid off, focus on AI. I mean, obviously, a decade lost. But for them, you can't keep putting good money after bad. They got to focus on AI. This is no different than Zuckerberg and Meta, taking away from Metaverse, going toward AI. It's the smart move. They needed to do it. And look, it was a painful learning lesson, I think, for Cook.
So to recap, what Dan sees for the next phase of the growth story at Apple, the first step is going to be a new AI app store. And then following is going to be a new AI iPhone, which will also have the AI app store on there. Then that's going to be 2 new revenue streams. Apple does not need to be first to be the best at AI. They weren't the first at phones. They weren't the first at touchscreen phones. And look at them now. They're the best. They know how to come in, swoop down, take what everybody else has mastered, and then make it just a little bit better. Dan believes that Wall Street is missing the coming renaissance of growth for Apple. Says the price should be a lot higher. China is 20% of Apple's sales. Dan calls them the heart and lungs of Apple. For Apple, all options are on the table. They have an enormous cash level, guys, and they can really go any direction they feel. Apple has started to stabilize in China after being weak for some while, so that should help iPhone sales. We'll see. And to wrap it up, he calls the electric car debacle an expensive and painful learning lesson for Tim Cook. I think Apple's at a great spot right now, a great time to buy the stock if you ask me. I've been putting some money to work. I think we're right before the renaissance of growth right now. I think there's going to be 1 billion to 2 billion people buying an iPhone over the next 5 to 10 years, guys, for this AI iPhone and AI innovations. They're just getting started. Nobody's giving up their iPhone. Think about it right now. If you have your iPhone, you're not giving it up. And you're going to buy the new one when this one's done. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Those are just my thoughts. I'll catch you in the next one.